Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Shameless in Chicago. This is your host, Nin.
And I'm Luke, and I need to go to the dentist.
Why?
My teeth hurt.
Oh, what now?
Yeah, I think I might need a root canal. I went to the dentist like last summer.
Yeah.
I had 8 cavities.
Ooh.
It was my first time going to the dentist in like 5 years.
Oh.
And they were like, you have 8 cavities, 4 on top, 4 on bottom. And I only got the 4 on top filled.
Okay.
And I'm a little worried that my teeth are deteriorating on the bottom. So I really need to go to the dentist, but I'm afraid of my insurance.
Why is that?
I don't know how it works. I've talked to some people that I've worked with, and they told me it's really bad insurance.
Oh.
And I'm like, it's a PPO. And then you come to realize that all dental is a PPO.
Yeah.
But in other news, I feel like a sweet tooth coming on because Valentine's Day is just around the corner.
I know. Guys, my sweet tooth has been so bad. My best friend has literally been attacking me every single time I send him a Snapchat of my sweet tooth because I have been getting donuts at least 3 times a week. Yes. I've been eating a lot of chocolate. And I know some of you are like, is she pregnant? Is it PMS? It's neither. I can tell you that much. It's just, I'm having a sweet tooth.
Do you know that it's healthier to eat a bowl of ice cream than have donuts?
See, ice cream is not my craving.
I love ice cream. I will mix it up. I'm not going to get into a whole rant about it, but there's so much you can do with it. It's so creamy and soupy and good. Fuck.
Creamy,
Yeah,
soupy?
so if you ever have a bowl of ice cream, right?
Yeah.
And then you mix it up all real good, maybe
Yeah.
throw some chocolate sauce in it, and you just spin it, and it turns
Yeah.
into like a really smooth ice cream.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, so for today's episode, it's going to be a short one. It's going to be nice, short, and sweet. And we're going to be honest with you, it's because my camera's dying. That's literally why.
Yep. I mean, hey, you get to see us, right? It's a big win.
10 minutes is better than nothing.
That's what I'm not going to say that.
That's longer than some men last.
So
Can we talk about the ruling? Would you be down to talk about that?
the ruling.
The ruling of how the school shooter and
Yeah,
the mother,
let's
you want to talk about
that.
it?
I have some thoughts on these kids,
Okay.
on these parents.
Okay, so the headline is from USA Today, and it says, Jennifer Crumbley verdict. After historical trial, jury finds mother of school shooter guilty. Now, this headline was interesting. So, Jennifer Crumbley became the first parent in the United States to be found guilty of involuntary manslaughter on Tuesday for a mass school shooting committed by her teenage son. Crumbley, 45, was convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for her role in the November 30th, 2021 shooting in which her son, Ethan, opened fire at Oxford High School in Michigan, killing 4 of his classmates, injuring 7 others. Involuntary manslaughter carries a maximum sentence of 15 years in prison, and Crumbley is set to be sentenced in April.
So did she supply the firearms, or did she directly give them to her son, or did she just find them in her house?
So get this. I'm going to read this last paragraph,
Yeah,
and then
hit
we'll
me
get
up.
into talking. Prosecutors argued Jennifer Crumbley knew her son, 15 at the time of the shooting, was struggling with alarming mental health issues. They said instead of getting him the help he needed, she and her husband, James, bought their son the gun used in the attack. And, get this, attempted to flee when it was becoming likely they would be charged. James Crumbley, the husband, faces the same charges and is scheduled to go on trial in March.
They totally deserve the charge.
This one is insane. We need to talk about this one.
Yeah. So first off, who gets off? It's like a 15-year-old. I can't buy a gun unless I'm 21 years old. And in this state that we're in, if you have been committed to a psychiatric hold, that's an extra 5 years that holds you off from getting a firearm.
Okay.
So now we are in Michigan with a 15-year-old who's been known to be struggling.
Yeah.
And you're going to give a child with, hormones out of balance, let's just say puberty's a bitch, you're going to give him something he thinks is the answer because he plays Call of Duty and Fortnite and thinks everyone's going to respawn?
Yeah, see, the thing is with 15-year-olds is that is 10 years before your frontal lobe has fully developed. So your frontal lobe is basically responsible for your decision-making and knowing what consequences come after. So if you notice, you'll be like, I don't know, when I was 19, I would just go out with a random guy. I would go to the clubs until 3 a.m. And then as you get older...
I told you not to talk about my past like that on the podcast. What the hell?
So as you get older and you turn like 26, 27, you're like, ooh, okay, so chances are that if I go out until 3 a.m., I'm more likely to be a victim of crime. And then if I'm a victim of crime, then I just don't want to do that and deal with that. So I'm just not going to do it. So you're more calculated because your frontal lobe has been fully developed. So this 15-year-old, kids don't know that death is permanent. They don't really understand the concept of something being permanent, right? We thought we would be young forever, in high school and college forever, and we weren't. We clearly realized quickly that everything is temporary.
Yep.
So for the parents to go out and buy this kid a gun at 15, first of all, they're not even allowed to have a car at 15, which is another deadly weapon. If you think about it, a car is a deadly weapon. You can easily kill somebody. So why are you buying them a deadly weapon that sole purpose is to kill, whether it be a person, an animal, anything?
Yeah, and I will say I've had a couple guns myself.
Yeah.
I've had 3 guns. I've sold 2 of them because, over the years, getting older, there's no sense in having 3 handguns in my house next to my bed. It breeds paranoia, or for this teenager, it bred a sense of, hey, I can fix my problems by making everyone else go away. It's scary. These kids have some score to settle these days. Have you noticed that?
Revenge.
Revenge, yeah. Whether it be against your teachers or your classmates, it's really, really disturbing.
Those kids that killed their Spanish teacher because she wouldn't give them an A. Yeah, they stalked her, followed her, and then essentially beat her to death. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I've read, like, for some of these schools, instead of, forcing these kids to go back, they just completely tear down and demolish the grounds.
Yes. Sometimes they will completely demolish the schools. Although Columbine High School, which was the first very notorious school shooting, other than Kent College, that both of those schools really exist. It's really sad, though, because Columbine happened in 1999, I believe. And these kids that are committing school shootings, they weren't alive for Columbine. And I don't feel like Columbine was really talked about that much in the early 2000s.
Columbine culture is alive and well on the darkest parts of this internet. A couple of years ago, I was 18 or 19 years old. I hadn't even moved out of my house yet, but Columbine happened. We were probably 2 years old.
Yes.
So I was stumbling across Facebook before the days of enforcement of community standards, and I came across the CCTV footage of the Columbine shooting.
I remember you showed me it.
And I just cannot. To me, death is a very scary thing, but those images in the mind of someone who has a score to settle or wants to emulate that, those images alone can be very detrimental. And teenage boys will expose themselves to the scariest fucking shit on the internet.
Yeah.
Beheadings, violations, physical, mental, blah, 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 just straight up murders. I can't imagine what it does to our brains when we intake it more and more and more.
I think you get desensitized.
And then you want to do it.
And that's what's interesting about desensitization and the internet and YouTube and stuff like that. Bailey Sarian is the host of Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. She's kind of the pioneer of that. And she actually had a YouTube video where she was like, guys, I'm getting in the comments saying that my videos are not quote unquote horrific enough. They wanted it. Her audience essentially was like, we want something stronger. But if you think about it, murder in general is freaking horrific. And so it's like, we're in this culture of like, Crime Junkie is the #1 podcast. True crime has an entire investigation discovery.
Its own genre now.
It really is. Like, true crime has its own platform now, and people are obsessed with it in the craziest way. But my lack of understanding, even from a psychological perspective, is that these kids were not alive when Kent happened and when Columbine happened. And in America, those were the worst atrocities that ever happened. Heck, these kids weren't even alive for 9/11. And it's like, where are you getting your education from? What is going on in your homes? What is going on in your minds? Media you're consuming for you to think that school shootings are the norm. They've become the norm.
Yeah, and this is not even something that we can blame on COVID or isolation or anything
Absolutely
like that.
not, because they've been happening.
Sandy Hook is a prime example in elementary school.
Kindergartners, yeah.
It's the most evil thing. I can't understand what would possess someone to go into a school and take the lives of children.
Yeah, God forbid.
And where does that problem start, though? Where does that problem start at home? Does that problem start with the lack of discipline at home? Does that problem start with the media that's being intake? What do you think causes children to want to harm other children?
You know what? The thing is, I don't really know, because when I was an undergrad, I did research on juveniles. And mine was juveniles with drugs and juveniles with crime when it came to drugs, right? Because that was the issue. But the issue has changed.
It's evolved.
Yes. It's no longer kids are doing drugs. Like, if you guys remember in an episode of Full House, DJ Tanner was being influenced to smoke cigarettes in the girls' bathroom. Remember? She was doing that.
Or Jessie from Saved by the Bell was taking those speed pills so she could stay up and study.
Yeah, exactly. And those were the issues they were facing back then, is drugs, cigarettes. But now it's evolved. And I hope that psychologists and criminologists are really researching this, because it will allow us to know what's going on, so that we can have that research, so we can kind of, mitigate it. For example, depression has been heavily researched, so we know exactly like what resources to provide and all of that. But if it shows you one thing, is that America is having a mental health crisis, and we have lack of community. And that's for sure, because these kids are crying out for help and getting pushed under the rug. I think that is the saddest thing, because we are the wealthiest country in the world. We are the wealthiest we have ever been, but yet these kids are getting neglected.
I agree, but I also think media has an impart on this. There's been plenty of shows that have featured mass shootings and casual recoveries. The thing about TV shows is that the moment happens, they'll struggle with that moment for a couple episodes, and then after that, it's gone. I was watching the Queer as Folk revival on Peacock. Don't watch it, it's awful. And it came out around the same time, or it drew inspiration from the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. The first episode has a 17-year-old boy in drag going to a club and performing, and then the club gets shot up.
Oh, wow.
The entire club gets shot up with, an assault rifle and all that. I think it's gratuitous. Why do we want to have this shock value? Why do we want to be reminded of the hundreds of thousands of people that we've lost due to senseless murder?
Yeah, and that also reminds me of One Tree Hill, which was a show that was really popular in the very early 2000s, mid 2000s. They had a school shooting scene
at Millennials.
Yeah, not to stray away from our earlier topic, but now this is a remarkable historical jury verdict of that these parents are now found guilty of a crime they did not commit, but their child committed. What do you think that is going to do for the future of America and parents?
I hope it sets an example. I hope it sets an example that parents need to parent their children rather than let media parent their children.
Yeah.
I hope it does not give children license to say, well, my parents will take the bill. That's a little concerning that they're going to say, oh, I won't get in trouble. My parents will. That's okay. They can deal with the consequences of my actions. I think every member of that house, mother, father, son, should be punished.
I agree. I think if you are aware, you provide the weapon, all of that, you're not doing anything, then definitely it's punishable. I mean, from what these parents did, it's punishable. But let's say, for example, the Sandy Hook shooter, right? He killed his own mother before he went and committed the murders. I don't feel like she would be somebody who would be found guilty. And other people of other parents that were like, oh my God, I had no idea. But I think this sets a precedent in that we have to parent our children. As we mentioned in the last podcast, you have to parent your children.
Watch your kids.
You're not your kids' friends. Enough's enough. Something needs to change. The parents need to change. This government needs to change. This society as a whole needs to change, because we are all connected. This is a very individualistic society. And if we learn that we are actually all connected to one another, we're going to want to help each other out. There's actually a Native American saying is that if one person is sick, the entire community is sick, because that shows us as a whole. And I think that's a very beautiful and very important saying. Alrighty, everyone. Well, like we said, this would be a short episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please let us know what you think about this verdict and anything else that we discussed in this podcast. Let us know how America can heal itself. But until the next time, everyone.
Yes, please join us next time as Nen attempts to help me take dental floss out of my ear canal. I wanted to hear mints, okay?
Do you even floss your own teeth?
I floss my ears.
Disgusting.
Nothing in between.
All right, everyone. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening to this on a streaming platform, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. And don't forget to follow us. Bye, everyone.
Bye. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please don't comment about how often I wear the same clothes. Bye.